The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 6. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Visit our blog at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Hello friend, welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of extraordinary women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan. And today we have an amazing guest today. Now, I've met this girl, I think it was in Denver the first time I met her. It was at a live event. And, she's always been very nice, very awesome. She always has all these awesome ideas. And one thing you don't know about this girl was she just recently, she was recently on the Kathy Ireland show to showcase her products. So I thought that was pretty cool, right? Coming from nothing, doing these awesome things and being able to be recognized by someone like Kathy Ireland is such a success in my book. So I'm going to introduce you to her. She's from San Francisco and sometimes in Costa Rica. Her name is Lisa Burnham. And Lisa, please feel free to let the listeners know a little bit about you, if I forgot anything or if there's any fill in the blanks that you can put out.
You got it, Sheena. Yeah. Thank you so much for that intro. I'm so excited to be on your podcast, and I am so stoked about your successes as well. So this should be a good conversation.
Yes, it's going to be a fun time. So, Lisa, we're just going to start with some questions here. What is your cultural background?
Well, I am actually a white Caucasian female. My mother's side of the family are Jewish, and my dad's too. So I actually come from a Jewish background. And if you go further back, I know there's some roots in Romania. But I also think it's very interesting that you asked that, because I was talking to a friend of mine about religion recently, and they were asking, about the upcoming holiday, which is a big Jewish holiday is coming up. And I said, well, I don't really celebrate it, and I don't really bring Judaism into my home so much. I married a guy who is not Jewish, and he comes from a more Protestant, totally Protestant side. And we just came together and decided that, art and love and surfing was our religion, and we wanted to let our kids kind of decide those things for themselves.
That's amazing. What do you think is your favorite self-confidence quote?
You mean that I said myself or that someone else said?
You, or a quote that you like to go to most of the time when you feel like you have like a bad day. It's kind of like your pick-me-up.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, we were just putting together this project, this ebook project, and we had to think about some quotes that would be something like that, like a go-to quote. And as we go along with the interview, maybe I'll touch on where the quote came from. But part of the thing about me is a big thing about balance. And so the quote that I'd love to say, which is something that I just said, is that when life becomes balanced, your own creative expression comes through and magic returns. That was my quote about myself. Meaning, that sort of when you're balanced and when you're feeling the energies are all right and everything's just grooving along. And as an artist, and I don't know if you touched on the fact that I am a visual artist, a lot of my inspiration has to do with creativity. So being balanced and having creative energy are very, very connected. And that's what I mean about the magic.
That's so true. Sometimes, we need to learn how to have some stability, be grounded, have those energies in place so we can live the lives that we want. So I really love that quote you just shared. So in your own words, what is your definition of self-confidence?
Well, throughout my life, one of the things that I realized was that I was always a different thinker, and that I never went along with the mainstream. Sometimes that was actually really hard. Sometimes I wanted to fit in, but it wasn't always the case, because I was always the artist or the sort of outside the norm in the groups that were not really mainstream. Even in high school, I always was sort of in the crowd that, not the football players and the cheerleaders, but sort of we were the weirdos. We were the artsy ones. We were the ones who were involved in the theater, and so having that sort of always be prevalent in my life, I had to rise up and have the confidence to be proud of that instead of shying away from thinking that I was, like someone who no one wanted to hang out with. So I kind of had to own that differentness. I had to be confident in my uniqueness. And that has really taken me through my journey forever, because as an artist, you always have to put yourself out there. It's really part of the deal. There's no, well, I'm just going to do my art and not show anybody. I mean, sure, you can do that, but that right there says a lot about your self-confidence. If you're not confident enough to sell your art or even just share it with one other person, there's, and that's a big gamut of levels of self-confidence. And I really feel like as being an artist and knowing that you have to put yourself out there, self-confidence is a really important part of that. Also for the fact that you get criticized a lot, not for being different, but maybe someone doesn't like what you did, which is perfectly fine. But if you're constantly getting cut down, that can definitely dig into your confidence. So you really have to be able to let that bounce off. And I think that you're going to build your confidence up as time goes on. And as an artist, I think that's what happens. You build the confidence of people saying or reacting or responding to what you're doing. And that kind of fills up inside you.
Totally true, right? Some people are too afraid to bring out their uniqueness, right? And especially you, like you said, being an artist, you always have to bring out the creativity inside you. And sometimes you can't care about what other people think, right? Because I believe, you're always going to have haters. There's people out there who's not going to agree with you. So we focus on the people who do love what we do, who do love our work. So what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
Wow. I mean, I don't know how far back I would have to go for that. I've been lucky enough in my life to always have people who've praised me and told me that I'm talented. So, it's almost like I think that kind of a place was never so much an issue for me. Self-confidence, I think, was something that I saw other people struggling with. And in fact, I saw my own sister struggling with that as well. And it was hard to see her. It was hard to see someone who was trying to compensate for their lack of self-confidence. Or it was hard for, me feeling like I had all the confidence in the world to see someone else suffering for, where they just maybe needed to make a slight shift and it would change everything. So I honestly think that, you're just you're born the way you're born, I don't think I kind of emerged into something so much as I just am the way I am. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. A little. Yeah, it does. Sometimes we are who we are, and there's some people who can accept ourselves, and there's some who still struggle with it, who deal with it. So I hope your sister was able to get out of that funk, I guess. Was there any aha moments in your life where you realized, you could do more than just art, or you were able to expand your horizons? I mean, you're on Kathy Ireland. I mean, that alone was just. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot that came in between me deciding, yes, I'm an artist, and then I want to take that to another level. I want to make that role be a business for myself. Or, I mean, I was a teacher for 20 plus years, so which is a very different kind of work than I'm doing now. Which is to say that, you're putting yourself out there in a different way. And I think that the aha moment for me came when I really wanted a shift from, okay, I'm here, I'm doing my own thing, I'm in my world, maybe I'm not even that happy, but I'm just kind of doing stuff. I'm not really out there, putting myself out there. And there was a shift for sure when I really started to notice some very deep unhappiness happening, and I wanted a change. I needed to become happier. So, the aha moments hopefully are when you realize that you need to make a shift in your life. That was definitely one big aha moment. And then finding out next what is going to make that happiness come, what's going to fill up that space, that part of me that was, that was missing, because I definitely noticed it. There were signs and signals along the way, and those were very, very, those were manifested in ways that my family was even noticing, maybe a grumpiness or a quick to anger kind of thing that my kids were feeling like they were getting yelled at more. And and when they're, saying, hey, Mom, what the hell? Why are you yelling at me all the time? Like, I'm not even doing anything. Then, of course, you turn it back on yourself, or you notice more, well, wait, why am I being grumpy, and why am I yelling? And wait a minute, I am not happy. I'm not a happy person. Let's make a shift. And that's such an easy thing to sort of just, brush under the rug and decide that you don't want to make a shift, or even look for all the excuses in the book why you can't. But in my life, I just made the decision that, I wasn't going to be unhappy anymore, and I was going to look for something. I was going to look for anything I could to make a change. And I kind of had a guideline of what I wanted to do, but it definitely wasn't clear. My vision wasn't clear. And the path to where that vision is now so clear was maybe 4 years, in the last 4 years, really researching and digging into how can I really change my life? How can I shift? How can I have that breakthrough moment time and time again? And now I do. I have breakthrough moments all the time in my business, and they infuse my regular life as well. And those changes that I made brought me to places that are continuing to change my life in bigger and better ways all the time. Connecting with the superwomen, having friends like you, Sheena, and all the other, online friends that I have now has broadened my world so much that being in my own little world at home and in my studio and in my life it's not so bad anymore, because now I have the rest of the world to connect to. And that was a big aha moment, really just that shift from, well, I'm here all alone and I'm unhappy, then wow, there is a whole world out there of people who are thinking like me. They're doing things that they like to do, that I like to do. Let's connect. And then there's this other level of, wow, people are interested in what I'm doing. People are looking at some things that I've accomplished. People want to know more. So there's this amazing transgression, within these aha moments that I think are really, they really give you energy. And the energy just builds on itself. And I know I've seen that with your business too, Sheena. I totally have.
Thanks. I know sometimes we don't really see it until other people tell us. Like this podcast was pretty much a work in process, and I've been proud so far of what I've accomplished, and I'm proud of the things that you've done too, Lisa. You've come from such a long way, right? From a teacher, now being able to be your own businesswoman, setting your own hours, living the life that you desire. I was going to ask you, what's your life like now after these aha moments, your breakthroughs, and finally realizing that you're not alone in this journey?
That is a really good question, because the breakthrough of realizing that I wasn't alone in this journey is something that I don't think people realize can happen to anybody. I think part of it was that aloneness in that uniqueness. Like, when I was saying I had always felt sort of, going against the grain, not in the mainstream. I never wanted to live in a normal house. Like, I lived in a loft space. My husband and I, we always wanted to just do crazy stuff. We traveled around Mexico with backpacks for 6 months, or, we just love to do things that, maybe the mainstream lifestyle wouldn't allow. So I started making this shift so that I could have a really different lifestyle altogether. I didn't want to just be that minivan mom, which was really actually starting to happen. I got a minivan and I had 2 kids driving around San Francisco, and I even had to do some soccer drop off and pickups, and I started to be like, oh my God, like if I turn into a minivan soccer mom, like that's it. I cannot see myself go down that road. That will be, to me, that was just the ultimate in conformity and mainstream, and I did not want to go there. And that I really took over. I literally got rid of the minivan. I bought a Jeep, and I really turned into this more art mom who is reaching out to the community in creative ways, being part of my kids' lives in creative ways by being part of their classrooms as an art teacher, which I did for like 12 years within the school system. And I was able to, find a place for myself as somebody who, not everybody can do this. Not everybody can work with children the way that I can, or put together projects, or do that kind of stuff. And what I realized was, wow, maybe I can do that online as well, and maybe I can do that to a lot of other people, but even more people and at the same time. So this realization where if you put out a blog post, if you create a video, and where that can go, that realization, that aha moment, brought me to this place. And I learned so much from the Superwomen as well, which are a group of online women who teach each other about empowerment and everything from social media to any kinds of trainings. But bottom line is owning your own business and being accountable for your actions and sharing the wins with other people. I think that's another part of business that I didn't know existed at all. Generally, I think businesses are always thinking they're in competition with everybody else, whether that's healthy or not. It's part of what makes up, American commerce. And what marketers and internet marketers have now kind of tapped into is a really interesting space where I feel like I can be myself. I can be super creative. I can take it in as many different directions as I want, and there's no limit. I can infuse my creativity into every single part of my business, whether it's the website itself, whether it's the content I'm putting, or whatever it is. It's always creative. And I can balance being at home, being available for my children, for my husband, and I also have an art studio 100 feet from my home office. So I am living the life of my dreams because I have my art, I have my business, and I also have, this happiness inside me that is it's infusing all these different areas. It infuses my children's lives. It infuses my husband's lives because they're not putting up with a grumpy mom. They're not, having to worry if I'm going to blow up at them, and I'm there and I'm available. So it's this wonderful balance where before I was responsible for 12 art classes a week, making sure all the projects were, and all the materials and all the things that I needed for it were lined up and lined out. And, as well as all the domestic duties that I had to do. And the balance, if you can't be present, it's so imbalanced. So what I was really looking for was that creative, that business, and that life balance. And to me, that's the freedom. That's exactly the freedom. And then I can take my laptop, I can go wherever I want, I can go to Costa Rica, I can go anywhere I want, and I can still be connected with all the people, my entire business, and I don't skip a beat. So what we've created, what we've all discovered, and by we all, I mean Sheena and our friends and the people that we are networking with, is that you can kind of have it all. I mean, that is what we want. We want to build a foundation of, love in your family. You got to be there. You want to build a business foundation, you want to have a career, and you want to be a woman who shares their passions. There's an arena for all of that. And I think as women, we are allowed to want it all. We can do it all. So that's what being a superwoman has kind of showed me, that we can totally do it all. We can do it from the comfort of our own home. And how badass is that?
I think it's very badass. I mean, I hate that saying that you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, what's the point in having cake if you can't eat it?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the dumbest saying in the world. I'm sorry out there, listeners, but, you can have your cake and eat it too. Lisa's a great example, right? She has the family, the business, and the art that she wants because she decided to create it, right? She just decided to go for it. So, Lisa, I just have a couple more questions for you. If the woman listening to this episode, wanted one tip from you about her inner journey to self-confidence, what would it be?
Well, I think when you focus your energies and really, really you got to have one of those moments. You have to figure out where that moment is going to happen and how that moment is going to happen for you, whether it's joining the Superwomen, whether it's, bungee jumping. there has to be a moment in your life when you jump off a cliff. You know, I think that if you're listening to this podcast and you find it and you're sitting there and you're just really feeling like there's something that's missing, that you are not fulfilling your soul with what should be filled with, whether it's traveling, whether it's building an online business, whatever it is, know that there is a vehicle for you to do it, and nothing is impossible, and that all it really does take is to make a shift. Recognize it, make the shift, and then jump off the ledge, because nothing is going to happen unless you take the action. And in every action, there is a reaction. But if you take no action, there's not going to be any action. So
take action.
So energy begets energy. I mean, I really feel that. You know, that's, you can see that happening. You might not think that at first. And you might even be really in that zone of, I'm trying, I'm working, I'm really trying to make it happen, Lisa, but it's just not happening. It's like, it's going to happen. It's going to be one little thing, one little shift, one little mindset shift, and it's going to start. And then you're going to see it build and build and build. But don't give up, because it really, really will happen. Reach out to people like Sheena and myself, and we can definitely guide you and give you some good ideas. But it's totally within you to sort of find what's missing, what is lost, who were you deep down inside that you just misplaced. You're still there, but you just lost your way.
Yes.
So come back.
You can always find your way back, that's for sure. Well, Lisa, I really want to thank you for coming on today. And if our listeners want to get to know a little bit more about you, where can they find you? Do you have like a website or any social media platforms they can reach you at?
I do. I am also known as the Green Art Network. So that is a great way to Google me. And then I own another company called The Green Seahorse. And that is my eco-friendly online company. So the Green Seahorse and Green Art Network. And yeah, check it out.
Sweet. Thank you so much for sharing those. So listeners, if you didn't catch that, you can always head over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Lisa's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And again, Lisa, thank you for coming. And listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode, and we'll catch you later. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on the Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about today, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more. Start your inner journey to self-confidence today.